Sonic Movie Show is a weekly show that you can find on a variety of podcast services. Keep up with us by following our Twitter at Sonic Movie Show. What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Sonic Movie Show, the only show that's about Sonic news, Sonic movie news. We talked about Batman last time, really briefly. I guess there's cartoons, and this week we're talking about Mia Jovovich in Resident Evil Apocalypse. Alright, so every now and then we do one of these video game movie reviews. It's a cool, fun thing we do. Way back in episode 5, we did Resident Evil. Or not episode 5. Our 5th one was Resident Evil. And that was episode 38, not 5. Back in episode 38, we did Resident Evil, the first movie. Now we're doing the second one, Resident Evil Apocalypse. There's 6 of these, so we're going to spread them out. We don't want to do them all back to back to back. Hop around the spectrum. This isn't Vin Diesel. We don't need to do them in film order. But we're going to be talking about Resident Evil Apocalypse today. My name is Ethan. With me here is Devin, who I did not forget to introduce, I promise. Is Devin.
Who the fuck are you? Which is a quote.
There was another quote.
Which is a quote.
There was another one when I because I watched it today.
There's another one. I have a backup one.
What's the backup one?
I think it's big enough for all of us.
No, that's not
it. Okay.
There was one where I think it was even Alice there, the main character, does a look and says something that was just so corny. I'm like, oh yeah, that would be the good quote. But
I try to write a whole bunch of quotes down, usually every movie, and I just pick whatever one I feel is right in the moment. But not too many.
I still like the idea for the TV series stuff where you do a quote for every single episode.
I think I'll do that next time.
To do the quote,
I definitely won't give you a quote.
Ramble them all off in a row.
Okay, I'll do that.
Every single
I promise I'll
one.
do that next time.
Okay. We watched this movie. This is our 10th movie we've done.
Really? 10?
For the show. Yep. Big old number 10. And I am surprised at how much of a not bad movie this was and how much I enjoyed it. Were you the same way? Or
did you
did you hate this movie?
It was pretty boring for me. There's a couple good moments. And I've learned to love these cheesy, bad video game movies. This one, at least for me, might be, out of all the ones we've done, I think it might be second to worst. Obviously nothing will beat Final Fantasy, The Spirits Within, but
no, that's probably going to be...
I don't know, maybe I was just on the high of the first Resident Evil movie, that I was like, okay.
I thought that movie was boring compared to this one.
I don't know why... well, as we're going through it, I guess I'll explain it more. But there's... I don't know, man. I guess I was just disappointed. I was let down. I was expecting Marilyn Manson soundtrack. I didn't get it. I didn't get none of that. I didn't even get any cool soundtrack. I don't even... It was all dun 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 dun. I'm like, no, where's my cool beats? Where's my cool camera angles? There's none of that shit. I was disappointed.
She rides a motorcycle through a stained glass church window.
That is cool.
Up a zombie, and then shoots it.
Yeah, that was 5 seconds of a...
That's your camera angle.
Hour and 34 minutes.
You didn't like the slow-mo camera angles where they just elongate every frame and then add motion blur?
Because they're like, shit, this movie's only an hour. I
hated those, to be fair. So in any case, released in 2004.
Great year.
Yeah. To the sum of $129 million, which is 27 more than the first one made. Resident Evil Apocalypse came out to, I would say, a big success. Compared to the other movies that we had reviewed on the site so far, nothing will beat Prince of Persia for a very, very long time in terms of the actual years. One of the movies we might do soon will beat it, but I think... I honestly don't remember. But ignoring Prince of Persia, we're just talking about this timeline. The first Tomb Raider movie made $274 million, which was huge. But Mortal Kombat made 122, around this ballpark. So this is on the up and up compared to Spirits Within, which was 85. You know what I mean? Or Silent Hill, which was under 100.
Spirits Within should have been a first to VHS release.
Direct
or direct to VHS rather. Yeah.
Well, and obviously we also talked about Detective Pikachu and the Sonic movie itself, which
Wait,
are
what?
over 3.
We've reviewed the Sonic movie? Have we done that?
We did it twice. You know, if the pandemic didn't happen and we had money and time to burn. A side note, I didn't try too hard because I knew you wouldn't want to do it, but like at least tried hard to express how much I wanted to do this idea of every week, as long as the movie is still in theaters, every week we re-review the movie until we can't anymore.
We would have lost things to talk about.
But like, just imagine how fucking awful it would have been, and just somehow making it beauty.
We would hate that movie by the end of that.
But that's what's awesome. It's like a good, like archival time capsule of like our opinions of the fucking movie changes. We literally have what our opinions are every week on this
it's
movie.
like Ethan said 2 weeks ago that he really enjoyed Dr. Robotnik's character, but then this episode he said he fucking hates them. I don't get it.
We could have done one where the episode was sped up 2x. So it was just so if we watched the movie that way and then reviewed it.
We watched it backwards to see if we still liked it.
Exactly. Still throwing that out there. No, I'm kidding. But we didn't even buy the Blu-ray like we said we would and reviewed it.
We will eventually.
I guess.
Maybe not.
I wanted that steelbook, but so yes, we watched this movie. And it's going to be a apparently divisive episode because I actually really like this movie.
Really,
I don't think it's good.
Really like is strong.
I don't think it's good, but I like this movie. I really enjoyed this movie. And it sounds like you think I have a opinion on mushrooms or whatever the kids do because you think it's a very boring movie. So let's begin. We gave our overall thoughts, I guess I would say, without talking about characters and all that stuff. Before we jump in, do you have anything specific you want to say about like characters or anything? I will say, if you need some time to think, I was surprised at the video game introductions in here, considering that the narrative I was always told about these films was that they were nothing like the games. So I wasn't expecting Jill Valentine to be in there in her Resident Evil 3 outfit. They name-dropped Nemesis at the end of the first movie. I wasn't expecting them to literally make Nemesis like what he looks like. So and it was in Raccoon City, so it kind of felt like what the third game was like. Obviously Alice is not a character from the game, and I don't know, was one of the army dudes, or not army dudes, was there a character named Chris?
I think so. So the only reason I can kind of help with this is I did boot up my PlayStation Classic and played like 30 minutes of Resident Evil. I think I said that maybe on a previous episode, or at least to you at some point. And I do remember Jill Valentine. I think there was a character named Chris or something.
Yeah, the guy with her was Chris.
They were all really just bad names. So like, but I remember like I only remember Jill Valentine because I think that was the worst of the crop. Being like, I'm like, whose name is Jill? Is she a weather lady? Jill Valentine?
Well, and the outfit that she wears in the movie is to a T what she wears in the third game, and it's an embarrassing outfit. And that's why when they remade that game this year, fans like just chuds, just fucking just Nazis probably. Just a Venn diagram probably means that they're Nazis. Absolutely furious that she's wearing an outfit that isn't embarrassing in the remake.
The only thing I like in terms of a survival standpoint is like if it's that tight, you're less likely to get grabbed. So like in that way, I guess it's a plus. But it doesn't look comfortable ever.
They also make
she has no straps. How is that thing even like? That's got to be suffocating.
Yeah. And also, we'll talk about her when we get to her in the thing. But I was surprised at that. This is also how I learned what STARS even meant. Because STARS is the task force. And it was in the beginning of the first game, it says that they're STARS. And in Resident Evil 2, STARS has an office in his police station that he's in. But I didn't realize that it actually was an acronym. I just thought it was like what Japanese people probably think would be a cool FBI agent name, like organization name. It probably is what it is. And then they wrote the terms afterwards.
Yo, we gotta call STARS. We need to get them in here.
Strategic team and response
squad.
Squad. Yeah,
it's
like
yeah.
Okay, whatever. But let's begin. So, I watched this today, and maybe you are right that it was a bit boring because I'm sure a little foggy on specifics for it all. I had fun though. This is definitely a fun movie.
It was such a great roller coaster that I don't remember any of the loops.
Exactly. The final loop gave me a concussion, so I don't remember what happened. I must have had fun because the movie begins with a movie production house logo that looks like it was made out of Home Depot plywood flying up the screen, and then another name I've never heard of before, which it probably was for the first movie, but whatever. And it does I don't want to call it a cliche, in because I feel like it's hurtful to say things are cliches when you're critiquing a film or a medium like this, because usually cliche is assumed to be a negative, and I don't mean this as a negative, but this is a thing that has reoccurred in other movies before, so I'll call it a cliche, but understand where I'm coming from. Where we intro with the character telling what happened in the last one, and maybe you find it right away, and in this case we find out later it is a recording for something. And I remember watching this, she says like, "Oh, so my name is Alice, and I was this person, and blah 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 blah." And I was kind of hoping in the back of my mind that it wasn't going to be her talking to a camera, that would be revealed after the end of the monologue, so that it can literally just be like, this character is talking to you, moviegoer, because you didn't watch the first one. And just have the guts to do it, I think, is a weird artistic choice.
You don't have to even explain it. It's just like, I'm a narrator.
Yeah.
I'm narrating.
Yeah, even that.
It's my internal thoughts.
Yes, but Alice was the head of the security
umbrella
sector
of the Hive. Hive in the Umbrella Academy.
She was the chief security officer or whatever of the main research facility of the biggest corporation on the planet, which she needs to describe as being the biggest corporation. I'm sure people this fucking planet know that. It's
basically Amazon, but I think it's even bigger than that. They make it seem like it's just like the biggest monopoly.
It's Illuminati.
Yeah. Biggest monopoly I've ever seen.
I mean, they have the ability to... They own a town. They nuke a town and say it didn't happen.
They have a satellite. That's at the end of the movie, but there's a satellite that has the Umbrella logo on it. So I'm like, okay, like they definitely have control over a lot of things.
How do you even get that much money? Oh, we know how.
We know how. We've talked about that before.
And, the virus and blah, 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 right? And then it's weird because then we don't even show her. Instead, what I thought was her, because we see a feminine figure suiting up, strapping on, getting her guns.
Put on that strap on, baby.
It's Jill Valentine, and I both am not embarrassed, because I don't even need to be embarrassed by this movie. I am both.
You said you liked it earlier.
I am both cringing at how cool they try to make her look and how embarrassing it is, and then also thinking it's kind of brilliant because her character has like a weirdly good arc in that sense of perceivedness, where she is very corny. It's a very corny, like, I'm the cool one. At one point when they're, I think, in the church, she like lights a cigarette and she like flicks her finger in a way like no one like does like the bang bang finger gun with the lighter when you light it up. That's just weird. No one holds a cigarette in their lips like that. Jill Valentine. No one walks into a police station that you have no jurisdiction in, because you're not with them, you're with stars, not with the police, and whip out pistols and just start shooting people in the heads. I get that they're zombies and they know they're zombies, but as far as anyone's concerned, you just went into a building and just fired guns, but everyone knows you're Valentine, so whatever.
Yeah, I'm like, I think if that was a real situation, people would be like, start pulling guns on her and be like, oh, what the fuck? Shoot her. Like, this place it's a mess.
Exactly. Who knows when she'll stop aiming at people?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a quick thing. But
I wanted to say one thing about the town itself. Like, I don't know what town. Obviously, there's not a place called Raccoon City. I mean, maybe there is, but I doubt this was the one they filmed.
It gave me like LA vibes for some reason.
For me, like when I looked, like they did like a aerial shot, and there's like a lot of tall buildings, like pretty tall buildings, and I'm like, when I think of Raccoon City, I always thought of it as like a larger town, but not like skyscrapers and.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I found that I'm like, is this Phoenix? Like, what is this? I don't know. I didn't know where it was filmed, but I think Canada.
That's why I kind of think of it as
because one of the production companies was Impact Canada, so I'm assuming they're Canadian. And the last Resident Evil was filmed mostly in Germany.
Oh yeah.
So,
in any case, very brave of them, at least in my mind, because we always like to bring these back to 9/11, to nuke a city and show extensive scenes of skyscrapers with their windows being blown out. And this is only 3 years after 9/11. Interesting.
We got over it real quick, right?
Yeah, we did. I mean, we went to war. We're done. Any day now, the troops will come home, and we'll find those weapons. And Bush will be a hero. In any case,
it really is every episode. Not even on purpose. Like it just happens. It just happens because we were so traumatized. That's why
us libtards always getting triggered by war crimes and inhumanity. I mean, our failed coup in Bolivia didn't work out, so now we're practicing at home to see if our coups can work.
Hey, at least we're still getting Resident Evil movies, right?
Yeah. Excited for the new one. Although I kind of wish it was more of these. But we have 4 more. In any case, Jill Valentine is apparently now our main character, and she's walking through being all badass. And I think then it starts immediately cutting, because this was, I think, supposed to be during the events of the first movie.
It was in the morning before,
just
whatever.
And it's just like how the first 2 Resident Evil games are implied to happen at the same time, because you can't have 2 outbreaks, and it's supposed to be the same universe. It's just the one outbreak. And then the third game is we're going back to Jill Valentine again. Now she's in the city. Kind of what this movie's trying to be. And so it's doing that, okay, yes, and this and that. We get I think a scene of no, we don't get a scene of the little girl and the Stephen Hawking type of character, scientist in the chair. We get that a little bit later. But that, and then we hop back to Alice, and we get basically the recap of what ended that movie, complete with Alice in an empty city with the shotgun, which was my weird thing of wait a second, there's people in the city. I thought Alice was in a ghost town. Okay, now we're caught up. Now there's no one around, right? Alice has a lieutenant of some sort, and they're both stars, because the Nemesis Division ID'd them as stars. But whoever the other guy was, the actual dude with them, they're out, and I think they're just in the street, right? Because there's a big crowd of people trying to leave.
Yeah, it's at a bridge or whatever. They built an entire wall around the city in a matter of less than 24 hours, which is better than what Trump did in his 4 years.
Did he even start that wall?
I don't know. I just know it ain't bigger than that. Anyways, yeah, they were trying to all get to the bridge, and we have a scene. I think Jill Valentine's there, and she meets up with some of the people she knows, and
reporter lady's also there too.
Reporter lady who sucks. Who's recording everything. I'm like, yo, Cloverfield's coming out in a couple years. Your shit is trash. All right, get it out of here. You might as well throw that camera away. All right, we're gonna have a giant kaiju attack New York City. All right, so
yeah, they're trying to get out. They're trying to get out, and then they see that someone near the gates was a zombie, bites Lieutenant Guy. I'm gonna call him Lieutenant Guy.
Hold on, let me
Stars
get the
Lieutenant
names here.
And that's when they're like, okay, someone's close. It's too risky now. Close the gate. Almost crush the car that's trying to go through. No one's allowed to leave. We just decide this now. And yes, this movie does hit differently now in 2020 when there's COVID and how we handle with a pandemic and
I think that was
civil
Sergeant,
unrest.
Peyton Wells, by the way.
Okay, that's what we'll call him. Sergeant Peyton Wells.
Just say Wells or whatever.
Wells, yeah. Yes, the 2020 pandemic, civil unrest, protests, mass groups of people, we literally have a pretty good idea of how this scenario would even work out in real life. So it is kind of interesting to look back on it in 2020 and be like, oh yeah, fuck you, you're gonna leave us all in here and we're all gonna die, and it's yes, because we're evil, because we'd rather this, but we're gonna nuke this place anyway.
You should have
we were gonna let some of you leave.
Like before as soon as you heard the outbreak start, nuke that. But there was reasons why that they weren't immediately doing it, because they were trying to get certain people out, and they're also testing Nemesis.
Yeah. Do they even say what STARS is even affiliated with? Is it a U.S. government branch, or is it? Because obviously the corporate sector would hate the government, so that would be a good reason to target STARS. But or were they just our own PMC, private military company?
I think they were. I think it's what because Umbrella was supposed to pick them up at one point, and they didn't.
Yeah. In any case. No. Those were Umbrella people. They had patches. That's an umbrella.
Oh, sorry. Then yeah, probably.
In any case, they do that. Oh no! And now we go back to they are taking important people that work at Umbrella, and they're evacuating them. That's when we get to genius scientist person who says, "Where's my daughter?"
Dr.
And they're
Ashford.
they're like, "Don't worry, she's being taken care of." Which sounded to me like we killed her, but they're not. But then so they pick her up from school. They get into a van, immediately hit by a truck, and I'm like, was this planned? Because the way it's filmed and edited makes it seem as if this was a part of the plan, not like some crazy thing that happened, out of the blue. Is like, damn, like this is like Bane in a Batman movie would do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What's funny is Dr. Ashford is played by Jared Harris, who is like the main scientist guy in the HBO show Chernobyl, and he's the one that was warning him about Chernobyl. And it's funny that like he kind of plays a almost similar character in this, but not Russian.
Interesting.
Where he's like, you shouldn't have been doing this. We have to, and then he has a whole storyline with like his daughter, trying to help his daughter, and that's where like he's the one who makes the T virus or whatever it is. We find out later, but
yeah, I mean, all roads to hell were paved with good intentions, So yeah, now we hop back to Jill Valentine, and they're just out on the street. And Jill Valentine and Wells and reporter lady, and they get into a church. There's a guy, he's a squatter. He's like, "No, this is my place." And then
they're like, "No, you're allowing us in here." And like, if you really cared about it, you would have shot him before they even came in through that door.
It's true. They explore around. They find a priest, pastor, father, someone, and a woman he's taking care of. Okay, whatever. And then they're both dead, right? Then they all go back downstairs, and that's when we see some zombies. And these are Resident Evil enemies. The zombie dogs we saw in the first movie were from the game. It's that famous moment, really, in the first game where a safe spot you thought was always safe now is not safe because of the zombie dogs. These bring in the lickers.
We got one of them, though, right, in the first movie? And when they were trying to escape on the train.
But I think it was presented a little bit differently.
Yeah.
In this case, these are to a T what they are like described in the game. They're blind, long ass tongue, and they like to stick to the ceilings and wait and sneak up on you. But a flashbang or something that produces a noise can deafen them. They fight a whole bunch of those, but oh no, we're all out of bullets because we brought one magazine each. And that was it. But I guess they're on the field. They weren't expecting like a holdout. And then what happens, Devin, when it looks like they're going to die? What happens?
Alice predictably comes to save the day. I wasn't expecting a motorcycle through the window. One, how did she know they were in there? I guess maybe the gunshots. Who cares? She flies through and she does like a backflip at one point, and then the motorcycle...
She backflips off the motorcycle.
And blows up the motorcycle.
It collides with a licker, which forces them to go up. And then she shoots the tank on the motorcycle, exploding it. Then she dispatches the other ones in very cool ways. Now, this is what I'm saying when I say I really enjoyed this movie. The choreography and the action stuff, while stupid, is done in a way that isn't, like, bad. Like, yeah, you can be like, oh, I'll roll my eyes, but it's still done. It's executed with a set intention of enjoyment, of like, we think this is cool, and we're going to try to make it cool, and you're just not bad at it. I actually am like that's my angle coming with this. Is like I actually like this stuff.
Oh, I
think they did a good job in my opinion.
We did see Alice before she got the motorcycle that she had the squirmies in her arm.
Yeah. Yep.
But it's still funny that even when they showed me that, I didn't realize that, like, oh, she has superpowers until, like, she did a bunch of stuff. I'm like, I don't remember her being, like, this good at combat in the first movie.
Go back to the first movie. Remember when she was, like taekwondo kicking the dogs? It's literally, like, on our movie
right.
logo.
That's right.
It's in there. That's when we were like, oh, wow, yeah, no, because that movie set up of, like, who is she? But no, she actually is, like, the person in charge of security at this place. So that's why I'm like, oh yeah, no, she's like that. And then later, like, oh no, she's like Ripley in Alien 4.
Yeah, just
essentially
like half zombie, but really cool.
Yeah. Which they did a bad job of showing that she wasn't just badass, like that she had like maybe a sense of really quick like response in the brain or whatever, reflexes, whatever, stuff like that, besides just showing action movie stuff. But I liked all that. And then coming up full circle to here, talking about Jill Valentine, up until this point, there is, in my opinion, a very corny sense of trying to make her look cool and badass, and she is immediately outclassed. And then for the rest of this movie, Jill Valentine starts to become more and more likable and actually like a good, I don't want to say a good person, but like a good character in the sense of like, I like seeing you on the team, as opposed to the beginning where I'm like, this bitch is going to be annoying and she's going to have to fight Alice because God forbid there are two badass bitches on your team, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's going to be that kind of a thing. But no, she's immediately outclassed, doesn't get like jealous or combative or cocky, and it is like, no, now we're a group. So like I think it was like an actually a good, well done thing for it. Regardless if they were intending on making Jill Valentine at the beginning be a corny sense of cool, or if they actually thought that was cool. I think that they just thought that was cool. You know, I don't think
the only
like,
time that she was ever combative towards Alice that I remember is during the graveyard scene where she was like,
which is right after this church. So like, it's understandable.
But I'm trying to think if anything happens in between. At the same time, the Dr. Ashford is hacking the mainframe and he contacts them, I think, at some point, right? And is that before or after the graveyard?
It's right after the graveyard. Also, we get this Jill Valentine frees from a holding bench or whatever, a guy that was arrested for something, and he's like the comic relief for this movie.
LJ.
So we get snippets of him back and forth as we hop around before he eventually meets up with the group. And I don't think he was a bad character. I liked him. He was the comic relief. You know what I mean? Like, sure, he played into stereotypes, but like none of them were offensive, and he wasn't played off as a joke. He lives at the end. I think that in and of itself means he wasn't played off as a joke. So I liked him.
Yeah, because they show a scene where like he's driving his car through like
he hits a cop.
It's a cop, and then there's
strippers,
zombie strippers. I'm like, nice.
Yes. So yeah, we were hopping. I don't remember where, like, but eventually, like, he does find a STARS headquarter of sorts, because Nemesis. That's where we see Nemesis.
Yeah.
And Nemesis identifies everyone there as STARS. But then, interestingly enough, as soon as he drops his guns, Nemesis is like, "Oh, he's not a threat," and then walks away. I'm like, well, that's interesting that they didn't want to have witnesses to this. Especially since they're watching what he sees through his eyes.
They're nuking the whole city, so I guess it doesn't matter.
Why even send him out to fight them then? They're going to nuke the city anyway.
They're testing him on the highly trained people.
Okay.
That's what I think that was the whole point about that.
Also, two Umbrella Corp army men, I guess you would call them, fighters, are just fighting the zombie horde. There was the third one, but he got bit, whatever. Traveling through, and they're stranded, and that's when the helicopter flies over. It drops weapons cache, but it's not for them, it's for Nemesis, I guess.
Drops the loot box.
Yeah, exactly. The airdrop.
Got some cosmetics going.
Yes. Remember Rust? That was a good game.
It's still out.
So
still playing.
Not in my mind. Not in my mind. That game was a 2013 only experience.
Great year.
So we're hopping through them. Eventually, they all kind of meet up in the school, which is where we're going. Alice and their crew talk to Dr. Ashford on a payphone. Like, you need to free my daughter, and then I'll let you out because I know how to let you out. Cool, we're gonna do that. We all meet up at the school. Nothing happens in between, right? Because then we just get the other people's stories, right? Like, Alice and them don't bump into something else before
besides
the
the graveyard where, like, there's an altercation. Oh, and then there was altercation between Alice and Jill, and that's where Alice says, Wells, you're gonna
they
die.
find Nemesis. Yeah, that's in the graveyard. After they accept the mission or whatever, and this is after Nemesis shoots up at the STARS facility. They see
the graveyard scene was before Nemesis. I have it written down.
Then it was the Nemesis at the STARS office. Because Nemesis is the one that shoots Wells. They can't have a conversation about them having to kill Wells if he's already dead. So their Nemesis scene happens after the graveyard. The first Nemesis scene must happen before the graveyard then.
Well, no, it was graveyard, and then it was it was because I wrote zombie strippers, zombies from the grave, hospital is very clean, Nemesis, phone, and then Alice fights later. It's the strongest dumpster ever, where she falls down the dumpster chute and doesn't get destroyed by an RPG.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So you have the order correct. It happens after the graveyard. Because that's how Wells gets killed.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were saying
as a zombie.
Never mind. Go ahead.
So then that they get kind of separated, but basically it's how it's whittled down to just the three ladies going to the school, and then the other squad of the three men go meet up at the school, right? And they all separate. And Alice specifically says, "You go to the second floor. You stay on the first floor. I'll go to the basement." But when we finally get back to Alice, she's in a basketball court. My first thought was, why is the gym in the basement? But no, she was still on the first floor because she ends up going to basically a cameraman lady, weather report lady, I guess, whatever she was, gets eaten by a bunch of kids.
So lame. Like, if I'm gonna get eaten by a zombie, I want it to be a full adult zombie. Or zombie strippers. I don't need it to be like a bunch of kindergartners. Are you serious? Kick them.
I also like that they called that
camera down and kick them.
The school is called Raccoon City Junior High. That was very clearly a private school, considering the people that sent the kids there lived in gigantic houses, and the architecture and British accents, stereotypes aside, suggests money.
And
that's not a junior high.
Some of the classrooms, I think one of them was like a science room or a science classroom, and I saw there was all these jars of like various insects, bugs. I'm like, we didn't have that shit.
That ain't public funding.
Middle school.
That ain't public funding. 100% ain't public funding.
We got pigs. That's about it.
The pig fetuses. I remember that. I was like the only person in my group that actually like cut the thing up. Mm-mm. Everyone else was like, "Ew, I don't want to." I'm like, fuck you.
Gross.
Yeah. So whatever. We find what was the kid's name? Angie.
Yeah.
We find Angie, and we're like, cool. We're gonna get you out. One of the two Umbrella Corp guys dies. That's okay. The guy that I think his name was Chris is with them, but he's bit. Then we find out that before we know that he's bit because we seen him bit earlier, but the group doesn't know that. But we find out that both Angie and Alice are infected, but they're fine because they've been treated to the antivirus.
Yeah,
which Angie just so happens to carry to school. She brought that to school.
Yeah, dude. But as long as she doesn't bite anybody.
That's the weird thing. Were they trying to imply that it was like insulin or something that she had to take on the regular?
It made it, with how often, like all the marks on her, it made it seem like, yeah, maybe like once per day or week or something.
Damn. Otherwise, she turns into a zombie. Also, that she could walk normally. Like, I don't know. Like,
that trade-off.
I don't think that's worth the risk.
I mean, people with diabetes have to do it every day, and like that's at risk of them forgetting. But I feel like if you get into a good, it's also life and death.
Right.
So I feel like you would be like, okay, if I don't take this, I will die. So,
right, but they gave her the T virus so that she could walk again. And it's not like, oh, if she didn't take this, she would be dead. She would just have to use crutches forever. Maybe she had polio or something.
Well, they said
didn't
that.
Want to say.
I remember them saying that, like, oh, her health was getting worse and worse, and then that's what drove her father to.
Fair enough. Also, again, the good guy on the bad guys trying to humanize him. That kind of idea there with our villains. But so then the guy who I think is Chris says, oh no, he was in the Umbrella Corps. That can't be Chris, because Chris was Stars. Unless they don't really, because again, I guess they don't care about canon in these movies. He's like, oh, I got bit, and that's okay. It's your lucky day, because we're gonna heal you, or we're gonna cure you. So they give it to him. Cool. And they're starting to go, and they get to a phone, right? Because they get a call from Dr. Ashford, who's like, let me speak my daughter, and they're like, we need to know where we're going. It's like, okay, like, clearly he also wants you to get out because you saved his daughter's life. This isn't like you're speaking to the bad guy that's trying to make a deal with you. This guy wants to see his daughter, and the only reason why he didn't want to just let you out right away was because he wanted to make sure that you would save his daughter. You have his daughter, you're heroes to this guy. It's okay to, like, give him what he wants, let him speak to his kid. He clearly can see you anyway. He knows you have her. This isn't like a hostage situation.
I also want to say, though, in the school, our boy Nikolai died.
Yeah,
to the two
he
dogs.
introduces himself and dies.
And he was like, "Oh shit!" I like that.
That's the one. That was the line. I was like, "That's what he's gonna do." Is the quote?
Oh shit! Or like, there you go. I said it.
Yeah. Also, they pick up camera lady's camera. When she was holding the gun, she had the thing dangling from her arms. If you need to swing around to, I don't know, shoot a zombie that's snuck up on you, that thing's gonna like annoy you and distract you and weigh you weirdly.
I still don't get the whole like I get like for the narration, but like
she was gonna get an Emmy.
It's like everyone's dying. Like have some like I don't know, just respect in that way. Like it's not like anyone during 9/11, back to 9/11, with the handhelds was like, "Yo, bro, I'm gonna get an Emmy for this, bro. Yo, look at that tower fall." No, you don't tout that shit. She was saying it so confidently, like, "Oh yeah, my career about to go on the upswing."
That's fair. That's fair. But there is there's an importance to document stuff.
I understand that.
So,
but her whole purpose is only for my personal benefit instead of like, "Yo, there's zombies.
Agreed.
There's Walking Dead."
All right. So yep, and he's like, "Okay, there's a helicopter, but you need to be fast because it's leaving in 47 minutes." And I was like, "I have the impression this helicopter wasn't sent just for us." Like, no, it's not, because it's sent for Nemesis, which they don't know that at the time. So they're going, and what happens next?
Well, I was gonna say we already skipped. We skipped a good chunk because we're about like an hour in now at this point. I think we only have a half hour left. But because they at one point, I'm trying to remember because I wrote here like I did forget to say this too. Also in the school when they're fighting the dogs in like the kitchen or whatever, they missed an opportunity for even a better corny quote, which was, "Looks like dog meat's on the menu."
Oh my god,
that'd have been great.
But that was actually kind of speaking about that scene. She turns the gas on the stoves, and the idea was she was going to light a match and throw it and just engulf the room with flames. But it fizzles out, and then right at the last second, Alice got to one up Jill Valentine by flicking a cigarette, which she's never smoked because she doesn't smoke, through the slip of the cracks, and then whips out the fire blanket and protects Angie. There's that.
Besides that, they go. I think they get to the building they need to get to, and they scope it out, and they're like, "Okay, we gotta do this," and then stealthily take out most of them.
Yeah. Alice runs down a building. There's a cool camera. I don't want to call it a trick, but like when she starts to run down the building and she's up on top and she leans down to go, and she leans down to go. The camera follows her, like, synced up,
like Sonic,
which is cool. As if the world itself moved instead for that brief half a second, quarter of a second. I liked that.
It was like Sonic
I appreciated
when he went
that.
in Sonic Adventure 2 when he goes on that first big loop in the Escape from the City.
It goes down the building. You're right.
Exactly.
You're right.
That was probably an Easter egg. That
it's inspiration for sure. I mean,
maybe we Reddit, need to be
talking about
put it on Reddit. It's definitely an Easter egg. Definitely a.
Is this what we need to do from now on? Try to figure out what Sonic game led to the inspiration of the movie we're talking about.
There you go. That's your inspiration.
As I get my fingers stuck in hard plastic that actually hurts to pull it back out. Yeah, they just take out all the guys, and then helicopter lands. They go to
and guess who it is?
Dispatch the people in there. They dispatch the people in there. The guy says, "I normally drive a Cadillac or whatever," and then nope, bad guys are there.
And guess who it is?
They cape them all.
It's the actor who is Jorah in Game of Thrones, and also our bad guy in Tomb Raider.
Okay. I forgot that that he even looked like it that movie, but I guess he looked like this guy.
He looked exactly the same. Even in Game of Thrones, he's just that guy, but with armor and more noble.
Really?
Yes.
So he's got them all tied up. Oh yeah, he also found out that Dr. Ashford was trying to save his daughter.
Like, duh. Why'd you leave a laptop in his room, by the way? Like, for what? Like, aim? Like, get the... Like, who are you hitting up? You hitting up CNN on there? Like, no, we don't want any... You shouldn't have any communication. Just put him in a cage. I honestly thought when he said, I'm going to stay here and wait for my daughter, and this is the beginning of the film, I thought he was like, okay. I thought he was going to take the chair from him. That was my dark thought I have. He's like, okay, this is our chair, so... I thought he was going to leave him in the rain.
Like, I thought they were going to kill him when they found out that he knew.
They should have. But I guess they needed that for leverage.
I guess. And they use him for leverage because they kill him. For some reason, this big bad guy wants to see Alice and Nemesis fight.
Because they were both part
of the same program essentially, for their experiments. He wants to see which one would be better. And so they're fighting, and...
she gets a sword, luckily, when he pulled out a sword.
Here's what happens, is they tell Nemesis to drop your weapons. It's going to be like a fist fight. And my thinking is, when Nemesis starts to realize it's not going his way, that's when he says, fuck it, and he makes an improvised weapon. And then that's good, because when he's about to downslash on her and kill her, that's when the bad guy gives her a sword, because it's not fair anymore. And that's, like, that was an interesting thing of the fight. I don't know if you picked up on, like, maybe the idea of, like, he's trying to, like, it's a learning kind of bad guy or whatever, but, like, no, it's not going my way. Fuck these rules.
Yeah. I don't want to die, so.
But then she does pin him to a wall, quite literally, with an exposed bit of metal, and she is instructed to finish him off, and she gets all these weird flashbacks, and she knows it's the guy from the end of the first movie. I don't even remember
Mac.
Really. Yeah, Max, one of the two.
Macintosh.
Exactly. Macintosh 2E.
Macintosh Nemesis.
Oh
there you go.
And with the PlayStation emulator on Macintosh, you can run Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. Macintosh Nemesis. What was I going to say? I did like this, that you don't really see his eyes or eye up until here when they want you to humanize him a bit. And I think it did a good enough job that I immediately knew he had flipped or whatever. I immediately knew he was no longer a threat to the good guys in that sense, or at least to Alice, through this part. Because as soon as she walks away and says no, I knew 100%, like, Nemesis is not going to hurt her or any of them. And it's true, because she's held up, everyone's held up, and he unloads his minigun and kills the two people aimed at her. Want to point out, though, so you have a scene where a person is flanked by two people with weapons that are aimed at you or that person or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And you have a gun, and they're not expecting you to pop, 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 and shoot them, right? If it's a pistol, even if it's an LMG, something big, whatever, right? It's simple as quick pop, pop. But a minigun that requires rev up time and does not have the ability to immediately stop makes that very hard to do. He literally shoots the person on her left, and then it cuts to him shooting her on the right. That would not be possible unless he shot through her or did like this giant U shape above and over her, because he would have had to stop and let the thing go down.
I don't know, man. Have you used a minigun?
Not in real life, but in all of the video games in existence.
As an NRA member.
Jesus Christ. The only gun I ever saw was the gun truck in Sonic Adventure 2.
Hell yeah.
What did gun stand for in that game? Governments United Nations.
Something stupid. Something really dumb. Yeah.
Get inside.
Get Ukraine. Yeah, so, Nebraska. I don't know.
Nemesis.
Get
uranium, Nemesis. That's what gun stands for.
Get your number. Yo, can I gun you?
F is for friends who do stuff together. So yeah, now Nemesis fights them all, and then they're getting on the helicopter, and Nemesis dies somehow. I forget how.
He got because he shoots. Well, he shoots two helicopters down with one rocket, which is very impressive.
And it crushes him.
But it crushes him. Yeah, and
knocks her the fuck out.
Yeah, and they grab her and they get in the helicopter, and as they're leaving, the nuke finally gets there and blows above the city, which is interesting. This is really weird that I know this, but I've watched a couple like documentaries on like nukes.
It's like an EMP.
Like to do more damage, I always thought the lower to the ground it should be. I mean, everyone was dead regardless, but I just found it interesting that they just went for an aerial explosion instead of a closer to the ground, and also that would reduce the amount of radiation that's spread. Because you remember, like, they're like, yeah, it was a crazy disaster. I'm like, if there's any towns within like 100 miles, you're putting so much radiation. Like, they have a huge lawsuit on their hands if they ever found out that it was Umbrella. But yeah, then their helicopter crashes right into like near a waterfall.
Hold on, let's back up. Let's back up. Before the nuke even goes off, the bad guy tries to get in the helicopter. They break his knees or something, and then just drop him off because there's a horde of zombies, of course, approaching, and he gets eaten by Dr. Ashford first. But yeah, so then the people that are alive is Alice, Jill, LJ, and the Umbrella officer guy. That's like, he was bit and now he's good.
Major
and then Angie.
Kane? Was his name Major Kane?
Okay.
Or no, it was that...
Major Laser.
No, that was the other guy. That was one of the other bad guys.
In any case, it's the four of them, right? 5 of them, because Angie's with them. And then the nuke goes off and grab onto something, and a piece of shrapnel or something's going to fly towards Angie, so Alice takes the hit instead. Heroic sacrifice. Good on you. Helicopter crashes, yeah, like you said, in like a forest by a waterfall. And then it cuts to, and like they show her, she's like halfway like just burnt. Then it cuts to like the Umbrella Corp finding the helicopter crash, and they say, was there anyone else? They're like, no, there was no other people. So, which implies that everyone else left her
for dead.
And I want to know what happened there, because did they think she was dead? You know what I mean?
I don't know.
Like, it's interesting.
Also,
I would have loved if the movie ended here.
That's what I wrote down. I'm like, this movie never ended, and it was like another like 15 minutes. Or like this could have been maybe like the beginning of the next movie. Maybe it is
exactly.
But yeah, also like after that too, they show a cut where like there was a crazy nuclear disaster. Oh, but there's found footage. Oh, it's fake. It's like, who even delivered that? Also, the people who survived the helicopter crash would be like, I know there's 4 of us that know what we saw. We're not all insane. We survived a helicopter crash.
What they say is they say, oh, the found footage by a local Raccoon City, blah, 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 shows this and this and this, wow. And then it automatically cuts to, oh, it was faked, and blah, 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 blah. And Jill Valentine and the other guy, the Umbrella Corp, were the people that were like behind the footage, are now in custody and being prosecuted by the police. So it's implied that they brought the footage. Excuse me. At least those 2 people. Then we cut to Alice waking up in a test tube.
Alien 4 again.
And that's what I thought. I thought she was like a clone, but no, she is the same person.
Was she? I thought she was a clone at first, but then like, I guess they didn't really.
I think it's implied because they say remembered.
Like,
and she's like, oh yes, I remember.
It's science fiction, so you could just say the clone remembers everything too.
Yeah. I actually would have loved if they just copied Alien for the first 3 movies or whatever. She's the only one that survives. Only one that survives. Only one that survives. And she's somewhere else now. And then she's somewhere else now. I actually would have. I liked that about those Alien movies. Like, oh, yep, she gets out with the cat. The cat's dead immediately. She gets out with the little girl. Little girl's dead immediately. In the next movie, like, is What's Your Name from Stranger Things going to be dead in Alien 5? Guess we'll never know because they didn't make that movie. But yeah, no, she's in there, and then even bigger bad guy who was in her flashback from the end of the first movie, blah, blah, blah. She does remember, and she kicks all their asses and gets out. And who's there to pick her up? Badass Jill Valentine in an actual cool outfit, and the other guy in an actual cool outfit. And they get her in the car. Everyone knows Alice.
Everyone knew that she was going to break out,
should know what she looks like. They all know what she looks like at the very least. And they don't even... The people don't, like... Even immediately, like, hey, wait! Like, because, like, obviously the bad guys let her go because she's got a secret program in her eyes. She can be activated. I get that. But even, like, the security stop, people are like, no! You're stealing our person. What's going on here?
They're all on it. All in on it.
Yeah. And for some reason, they brought Angie with them to what could be a shootout. But they're all there, cool, dope. They get out, and that's it. And now here's what I want to say before you start talking about your opinions. I would have loved if the movie ended with the crash helicopter and them finding her and saying that there was no one else. Then the next movie opens with all that they show, because in this Marvel movie age of like bringing this character back, and they're like, oh wow, super cool. Even it's like an evolution of them, but it's all still kind of similar. It would have been really cool to see Jill Valentine and them when they get out of the thing and take her to be like, oh wow, I remember those guys from the last one.
Yeah,
that would have been a lot cooler if they saved that for the next movie.
I mean,
alas,
we don't know what happens in the next movie, but do you want to make a prediction of like where it's gonna go?
Okay.
Just to see.
I was not expecting this movie to be the way it was at all. I was expecting another like low. I was expecting like the Silent Hill movie, to be quite honest, of like the number of people involved with what's going on. You know what I mean? And which would also mean budget. That's what level I was expecting. The next movie is called like what, Extinction, I think, or Afterlife, one of the two.
Extinction.
I don't know. It's Extinction?
Yeah, because when I heard Apocalypse, I'm like, okay, she's gonna come out.
This has to be the
with
last
the shotgun,
one, right?
and like it's not just Raccoon City anymore.
It's like the world.
It's the world,
yeah.
And like she was gonna just find all that information within the first 15 minutes, and then like maybe it's her grouping up with survivors, and like there was gonna be some sort 100%. Of like task that they needed to do in the city. Yeah. Maybe there's like a fortress, and like, well, we have this other group of people who's trying to take us out. We need your help, something like that.
Yeah.
Like what they've done in Walking Dead or whatnot. That would have been safe too. But yeah, it was just in the middle of the outbreak, and it's just like on another level where like there's a nuke involved and all this stuff.
I was not expecting this movie to be this way. You're 100% correct. My prediction is that at least the way it goes with a lot of early 2000s and maybe late 90s movies that get sequels based off maybe other existing properties or whatever, to a level that isn't taken as seriously as Harry Potter, Star Wars, or Lord of the Rings, or even like the Pirates movies. I have a suspicion that some of these characters are not coming back at all. I have a feeling that LJ is probably never going to be in these movies again.
Yep.
Angie's probably not even going to be in these movies again. Jill Valentine probably dies. The other dude just probably dies off camera, and it's back to just her again. Because we apparently need 4 more movies with her. I don't remember Jill Valentine being in any of these.
My guess is Resident Evil Extinction. My guess is there's another outbreak somewhere, and they're going to send her in on a mission to, like, either figure it out, or there's a rival company making something, and she has to go and, like, kill them because they can program her.
Yeah, they do have set up that she could be like the Terminator at any moment.
The Nemesis, basically.
Yeah, I guess. So, I guess that's a better analogy.
So that's my guess, is that there's going to be... she's going to be like not a bounty hunter, but like an assassin or a sabotager of some sort, where they're going to send her somewhere where there's either a counter company making their own T-virus, or it's going to be spreading somewhere and the government says, okay, you need to fix this mess because this is all you. Okay, we'll do it. We'll handle it. Let's send in Alice. That's my guess. But based on everything, I guess it could be completely different. But that might be a shot in the dark. We easily could just look it up now and find out. But I kind of want to not.
Nah. Yeah, exactly. I'm actually interested to see what happens next. I think you're right. I think it's going to be something like that. I don't even know how much money this movie made. I have it written down in our spreadsheet, or the next one made. In any case, do you still think this movie is extremely boring? I found this was stupid fun, but not stupid bad.
I don't think it was bad. There were some characters I liked, some lines I liked. But overall, I guess maybe it was just... I liked the first Resident Evil. I liked what it was trying to do. I liked how it was super early 2000s. This had moments where it was super early 2000s still, such as like some of the hair and the clothing that some people are wearing. But like, I've just seen, I feel like, so much better zombie movies that I was just kind of like, yep, everyone's overrun.
Okay.
No one knows what it is, but one person does because they were involved. Oh, she's a super badass.
Okay.
Like she kind of was in the first one, but not really. But now she's a mutant, of course. And I knew as soon as Nemesis came out, I'm like, okay, they're going to fight, but they're going to like have some sort of connection because that's Mac, that's her boyfriend or whatever, or her lover. Even though they briefly touched upon it.
They weren't even, yeah.
When they feel like they could have done something more with that. Maybe when they first fought, that she was like, I can't fight you because you're Mac. And maybe eventually she comes to terms with that at the last fight or something. That's what I would have done with it.
It's J-Mac. We can't fight him.
Yeah. I don't know. And like some of the characters I didn't care for. Besides like LJ. I'm like, don't kill my comic relief. Even though I did think he would die, but he didn't, luckily. To our knowledge, for the future ones, without the future ones. I don't know. I guess I was expecting something else. I would have rather had our idea of that she woke up and it's already the whole world's overrun. I kind of like, even though that's been done before, I feel like in this Resident Evil with her, I'm like, she's already a badass or whatnot, or at least has experience with these zombies. I kind of like the idea that she's like, okay, I'm ready. It doesn't matter if the whole world's overrun. I'm ready for it. Instead, she's like, I don't remember anything, kind of, again. I have superpowers, though. I'm hanging out with these people for some reason. Like, she said she didn't care for them, but she was the one that came to them.
Well,
right? Except for, like...
I think she stumbled upon them. I don't think she was seeking them out, and that's how she got to the church. She stumbled upon them. It made sense, probably in the moment, for her to at least have them follow her, because safety in numbers type of thing for a brief thing. Then they got the mission of, you can leave this hellhole if you do what I say. Then that's why. So it made sense to me why she would stay with them. And she's not a bad person. I think it was more of like a pessimistic, you all will turn. But she's not a bad person. I never found her like an unlikable to the group. I
wouldn't say that. It was just more like, I don't know. I guess I like really liked Resident Evil for, I guess, maybe different reasons you did. Like, I loved the soundtrack. There was none of that there. There was no cool soundtrack.
You're not wrong there. You're not wrong.
Some of the cool, like, camera stuff they did in Resident Evil to make it feel like a video game movie wasn't there. Like, this didn't feel like a video game movie. This was a action with mild horror, dude in a suit movie, which I've seen before. I've seen these movies before. It's Friday the 13th, but in space. Or I haven't seen that one, but I know it's like this, where it's just ridiculous, and which is fine. I just wasn't expecting it. When I see Resident Evil Apocalypse, I was like, okay, the world's ending. It's the apocalypse. No, this happens in
Why did
town.
They call it Apocalypse?
They could have just called it Resident Evil Raccoon City.
Yeah, and Raccoon City's gone, so I doubt we're ever going back to Raccoon City. For me, we mentioned this movie a couple times during this episode, but to me, this is the Alien 4 of this trilogy. Like, that movie was also stupid fun. Like, I like that movie. I like Alien 3 and 4. I like them more than I liked Aliens. Because Aliens was a good movie. That is a, like, objectively good movie in the sense of, like, the artistic tree. And I understand this is all subjective stuff, but to me, it feels more legitimate of a good movie than 3 and 4. I liked 3 and 4 better than Aliens because of the stuff it was doing that felt more like what an alien movie should be, rather than a Space Marines movie that Aliens was. So hopping back, Alien 4 I liked a lot because it was stupid fun. You know, we have this badass character, and it's like, kind of roll your eyes at how great she is, but like, because she's got alien superpowers or whatever. That's what this movie is. A lot. It's not as over the top, because it doesn't have like all the side characters don't have their own weird random quirks so that they can do cool things too. They're not ricocheting bullets off stuff they throw in the air, or whatever. Like, they're not that crazy. But to me, it felt a lot like Alien 4 of like, this is just dumb fun, and it's not done poorly. Like, it's executed decently dumb fun, if that makes sense. I definitely can agree with you on the stuff about about Resident Evil 1 movie that I think is a better job than this one. But if you were to ask me which movie, if you had to force me to watch one of these two movies, to sit down and watch it, you can't do anything else until you finish one of these two movies, I'm going to pick this one over the first one. The first one was boring, in my opinion.
I feel like they're both not great. I just I guess like in terms of just, I'd rather have a movie with a good soundtrack, and like Resident Evil is just so weird in a couple of ways that like that isn't in Resident Evil Apocalypse. I feel like they just went from Resident Evil felt more grounded and like, okay, everything's in this one laboratory. There's some weird shit going on. When this is like
lasers with the cubes.
Yeah, like all of a sudden I'm like, we're on another level here, and I'm like, okay, I wasn't ready for this yet. Like, that's fine if that's what we're going for. Like, now now my expectations for the other ones are going to be at this level. We're not through the roof, but just like in this level of just like, it's going to be crazy. I shouldn't care as much of what's happening. Like, really, I shouldn't care, because
I understand that. Yeah.
I don't think I hate this movie or anything. I was just like expecting something else, I guess, and I guess that's why I'm disappointed. I'm just like, I don't think I'll ever watch this movie again.
Me neither, really, but I enjoyed it. At the very least, we don't have to rank these for this show.
No, but I'm just like looking at all the other movies we've watched. All my like Mortal Kombat's bad, but that soundtrack is so stupidly fun that I'm like, sure. And I love Mortal Kombat, so I'm biased there. Detective Pikachu's good. Lara Croft Tomb Raider is like, has some fun action scenes and is still grounded in a way, and I feel like it tries to be what it is. Final Fantasy, well, let's talk about that.
That's at the bottom for me too.
Prince of Persia
I like Final Fantasy.
Not a video game movie, but it's a good action adventure Disney film from 2010. So, and Silent Hill I like in a weird horror way, and it felt video gamey at moments. But like this Resident Evil Apocalypse, I feel like wasn't a video game movie.
Interesting. Well, there you have it. Those are our definitive opinions on Resident Evil Apocalypse, the 2004 masterpiece / bad movie, depending on your angle. Next time, we might watch something a little bit more relevant. We might not. It all depends on what's going on. If you want to know what our opinions on and other things, you can continue to listen to the show, which airs every week on a variety of podcast services. If you like us talking about a single movie for an entire episode, we have another podcast series called The Chronicles of Diesel that airs on this very feed. So wherever you listen to this, you can also find our episodes for that. That is even more in-depth. Well, it is in-depth. This isn't really all that much in-depth. But it is way more in-depth than this when we talk about Vin Diesel's filmography. Highly recommend it. That's the first of every month. Sonic Movie Show does a bunch of random stuff every week, so you can check us out there. And you can let us know what you thought about this movie on Twitter, at Sonic Movie Show. Let us know your thoughts. I am Ethan. I'm on Twitter at EthanAbsolutely. And Devin is on Twitter at CURSONAYOUTUBE.com. Let us know what you thought about Resident Evil Apocalypse. Thank you and good night.
We'll see you in the apocalypse.
I'm Sonic.